AL9 Melodic Paintbox is a sequencer based on the idea that you can draw the shape of your melody or your sequence. It has 4 independent tracks for pitch, velocity, rhythm, and control. And for each one, you can draw a curve that defines how that track works in the sequence. So starting with the pitch, we can draw a shape, for instance, like this. And then when we hit play, it's going to scan that shape and make a sequence out of it. You can change the shape. And over here you can choose the scale that it's playing. Let's choose a pentatonic for that. So the speed of the scan is determined by the phrase length control over here. Right now it's doing 1 scan for every bar. We can easily change that. And you can basically set this to anything you want. Let's try 3/4 notes. So it's the same curve, it's just spanning it more quickly, and whenever a note is triggered, it plays the pitch depending on where on the curve it is at that moment. Over here we have the general pitch controls. Here is the octave control. This sets the base octave of the sequencer. And then over here is the span control. So this determines the span, the number of octaves that the curve can cover. Right now it's set to 3, so you'll see over here on the keyboard there's a 3-octave range. Change it to 2. And you've got 2 octaves over here on your little keyboard, and then that can also be 1. The next thing I want to show you is this here. This is your variance control, and what this does is it adds a slight amount of randomness to the speed of the scan, which means that it's going to pick out slightly different notes as it goes along. Let's dial in a little of that. And the nice thing about this is that even though it's randomized, it's still following the curve that you drew. So it's not just all over the place, but it actually follows logically. You've got a similar melody, but just with slightly different notes. It's kind of nice. So now let's take a look at the rhythm track. The rhythm track provides the triggers for the sequencer. And over here on the left you can see a column of the different divisions of the bar that are available. And then in here, in the graphic area, we are drawing lines that determine which of those divisions is playing. So right now, we have 1/8 notes. Can change that to different rhythmic divisions. And of course you can mix them together and get some interesting patterns going. Down here we have the note length. It sets the note length. For instance, if it's playing an 1/8 note, at 50% you're going to get the length of the note is going to be 1/16 note. That can go up to 100 for kind of a legato effect. It can go higher if you want overlapping, or down lower. At 0%, All the notes are going to get the same trigger. It's going to be a minimal trigger for each one. Same length trigger for all of them. That could be useful if you're just triggering samples or something like that. Okay, let's throw in a little drum track for this next section. So what I want to show you now is the swing control. We've got this over here. You can set it to an 8th note or a 16th note. What this does is it slightly delays the offbeats. Typically this is going to be set to a 16th note. And let me just dial this in so you can hear what that sounds like. Yeah, that slides into a groove nicely. Switch it off. Yeah. So that works pretty nice. The next thing I want to show you is the timing mode. So the timing mode has can have a big effect or a small effect depending on what you've got going on here. But basically it changes how the different divisions of the bar are strung together to create your rhythm. Right now it's in parallel mode. So in parallel mode, all of these divisions are going at the same time in the background. And this line that we've drawn, all that's doing is selecting which one is going to play. In serial mode, only one of these is playing at a time. And what the line does is it starts the rhythm when the line hits that line. So for instance, we start with an 8th note. When we go up here, that's a 16th. So the 16th start at that moment, and then we go back to starting the 8ths and starting the dotted 8ths after that. So probably easier to just hear the difference. Let me switch there. So in practice, you're just going to choose which one of these sounds better. One of the main differences that I want to show you here is just let's just say your first note is a half note like this. In parallel mode, this is going to go right to your 16ths here. In serial mode, it's going to wait for that half note to finish before it goes any. That's kind of nice. So the big difference is in serial mode, every note is going to play out to its full length before the next rhythmic division will play. But in parallel mode, the half note is still playing to its full length, but as far as the rhythm is concerned, that's going to go right to the 16th note right away. That's the primary difference between the two. Okay, so there's a couple of things I want to show you that are good for adding variation to your sequences. And we've looked at this before, but this is the variance control, and with a setup like this, you can really see how effective it is at generating natural sounding variations to your sequence. So let's dial in like a little bit. Subtle changes. A bit more. How about a lot? Becomes almost random at this point. Let's just dial in a little. Next thing I want to show you is the control track, and this allows you to map a curve to basically any parameter in live. We're going to, let me just boost this up to 4. So this control track is going to go for every 4 bars. Over here, what I want to assign it to is the tone control on chiral here. Okay, so the tone control is all the way down. Now we can just draw our curve. And so forth. It's a lot of fun to play with. You can also use this to send a MIDI control number. So if you're working with a device or an external hardware device that responds to control numbers, you can set that here, and it'll send out both at the same time. And so the last feature I want to show you is the velocity track. It's pretty straightforward. You can define the velocity curve that you want to use. Chiral isn't really set up to respond to velocity right now, so it's not actually doing anything. And of course, it's got its own independent clock and phrase length, so you can use it to set a velocity curve that's independent. So finally, now that you've got everything going, I want to show you the overview track. And this really doesn't do anything other than to look cool. It does kind of show you all the different things that are going on with your track. You can't do anything here, but you can look at it. So thanks very much for looking at this device. I had a lot of fun developing it, and I'm open to hearing your feedback and suggestions. Enjoy!